Hey y'all, it's Chelsea, and welcome to a weekly reading vlog. I don't have anything going on this week. It just seemed like a good time to start a reading vlog. Today is Monday, October 30th, and it is 40 degrees outside. Now, if you don't recall, I live in San Antonio, Texas. Texas is Satan's armpit. It is always hot here. So I'm really trying to embrace this really chilly day that we're having. I am really sad I have to work today. It did cool down last night, and I had Beebs go on a walk with me just to enjoy the coldness. In terms of reading plans, it is the work week and I am scrounging for audiobooks, so we'll see where that takes us. I'm currently reading the next Game of Thrones. If you were with me for my short-lived Spookopoly vlogs, then you will know that I really enjoyed book 3, so I've dived into book 4. I am trying to read physically more because I desperately miss it. Last week I did start Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This is just like a hyped TikTok romance, but it's really working for me. Like, we're following this girl Daisy. She's a runaway bride. She escapes to this small town where she gets duped by her evil twin sister and ends up looking after a niece she didn't even know she had. And while she's dealing with that, she meets a hot, grumpy lottery winner who sweeps her off her feet. And it's very heavy on the cheese, but it's just working for me. And I only have this much left. I've only sat down to read this a couple of times. Typically, when I pick this up, I blow through 150 pages in one sitting. So I'm having a good time with this. Halloween is tomorrow. So if I finish my costume tonight, you will be able to see that tomorrow. If you've spent any time on my channel this year, you could probably guess what I'm gonna be. But I'm not gonna tell you, just in case I don't finish it and y'all don't see it. I also have a little project I would like to start. I'm calling it Ninth House November. I have to annotate this whole book, but I can't tell you why. Some of y'all who are in the Discord may remember why, but you'll find out eventually. We'll see if I actually complete it. I started annotating this back in March, and I'm only this far. Yeah, I've really been taking my time with it. I have very specific things I'm looking for in here, and it's been a whole thing. I need to get a move on. I need to get this done. So Ninth House November will be initiated. Wish me luck.
Hello. It is Monday after work, and it is cold and rainy. Are we approaching the end of Texas summer? Maybe. So I am making dinner, and we're going to talk about this book. This got a low 3 for me. And it really makes me sad to say that because I'm really liking this series so far. If like me, you've been living under a rock, Game of Thrones is basically set in this fantasy world where there's all these houses. We are following dozens and dozens of like just the most horrible people doing whatever they have to further their own agenda, so they can get the Iron Throne. It's very cutthroat, and this is book 4. A low 3. Was really not impressed with the length of this book. I understand why it happened, but I don't like that we are only staying south of the wall in this book. It became apparent very quickly that I do not care about anything going on south of the wall. So there's a lot of POVs that we don't get in this book because they're not south of the wall. I will say I really, 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 really enjoyed the break from Daenerys. I hate her. I hate her point of view. I hate all of her chapters. I hate being in her head. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's just pages and pages and pages of, oh, I'm so young and hot and everyone wants to fuck me, but I just want to kill people with my dragons. And like, I'm over it. So it was really nice to have a break from her. But I do really miss Jon and Tyrion's perspectives. So I know that I'll get them in the next book, but I'm also dreading going into the next book because Daenerys. So there's that. I'm probably going to take a bit of a break before I go into the next one, and we'll see. But like this one just, it wasn't the vibe. I just didn't care. Not a whole lot happened. It's mostly just, people kind of pushing their own agendas and he said, she said, and I'm going to do this to you if you don't do this for me. And I don't know. It really didn't start gearing up until Cersei's last chapter. But of course, that's at like the end of the fucking book. So, yeah, I am struggling here.
Hello and happy Halloween. Um, it's just another day for me. I tried to do my honey's photo shoot, and it did not go as planned, but it did get done. So I did cry about it a little. It is what it is. There are more important things going on in the world. So I finished 2 books today. I read The Dead Take the A Train. Uh, and you may be asking, Chelsea, I thought you said you were never going to touch Cassandra Khaw's work ever again. And that's correct, but this cover is amazing. And because this is like a co-author thing, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give it a try. I got the audiobook from the library because of course, so it didn't cost me anything but my time. I gave it 3 stars. So I was really intrigued, like in the very beginning, like it hooked me right away and I was in it. But it was another one of those books where the further into the story we got, the less I cared. Like it felt really long to me, but I didn't think it was bad. I will continue with this series through the library, but I did like it enough to see what book 2 has to offer. I will say I think I liked it more for the vibes. Like our main character, she was giving like Anita Blake energy and Alex Stern energy. So just as a character, like I was really vibing with her because of those 2 things. And like the weird, gory horror aspects reminded me a lot of Sister Maiden Monster. But as you can tell by this cover and the cover of Sister Maiden Monster, it's very tentacly and teethy. Um, so it was nice to see like that portrayed in the writing. In terms of Cassandra Khaw, I could still see her in this book with her thesaurus in tow, but with it being an author duo type of book, it it really, I guess, hindered her from doing her ridiculous writing style. I hate her. I hate the way she writes. Like, I hate it. I've hated the 2 other books from her that I've read. And after The Salt Grows Heavy, I told myself I was never, ever, ever going to read from this woman again. So it's nice to know that when she's writing with somebody else, a lot of that gets toned down, but the thesaurusiness of it was still very prominent. And it's like, I love a smart bitch. Okay, I love words. I love all the big words. I love knowing all the words, and that's totally fine. But the way that she writes in these big words, it feels so forced. Like she's literally like, let me get my handy dandy thesaurus and see what word I can use instead of the word I originally chose. I am probably mistaken, but that's just how it reads to me. And that's been with all of her work so far. This book didn't change that at all. So I gave that one a 3-star. And then I read this. Uh, and I gave this 1 fucking star. Okay, see, I didn't go into this with high hopes. I didn't even buy this with high hopes. I thought it was just going to be like a fun, campy time. This could very well be the worst book that I've read this year. And this was book 314. So that's like really saying something. I hated everything about this. The audiobook is atrocious. So if you are still like interested in this book, I know it's been making its rounds on the bookternet. If you still want to go into it, I would at least tell you to avoid the audiobook. But I don't think even if I read this physically, it would have helped. The writing is bad. The the plot is bad. All of it is bad. And then there was a steamy scene, and I think it was the worst written steamy scene. I was just like waiting for it to be over. I was getting a lot of like flashbacks from when I read Eve Brown because I also despised that book. And there was a lot of like, I was getting like PTSD from the cringiness, even though like they don't have anything in common other than like that comparison in my head. But this is just bad. It is so bad. I mean, the title, I don't feel like I need to explain what this is about. The title says it all. Um, I didn't like anything about it. I don't have anything nice to say about it. And I've spent hours trying to find something nice to say. And the only thing I can think of was, okay, Jenna, you hit the word count. I hate it. I hate it so much. It reminded me of that other crappy book that I read earlier in the year. If you're white and if you can hit a page count, then you will get published no matter what. Like I felt it with this book, and I felt it a lot with this book. Like this book has not, like this publisher who published this, I don't want to read from this publisher anymore. And I'm sorry to anyone who really enjoys this book. Like I am happy for you. I wanted to like it too. But this is awful. I just there are no coherent thoughts because they're all just negative. That's also one of the reasons why I don't like write Goodreads reviews anymore. One, just mostly because I'm lazy, but two, I read a lot of books I dislike. Um, and I don't want to be putting all that negativity out into the universe. My bad rating is sufficient enough in my eyes. I don't feel like I need to pick it apart, but just know that I could. I have decided that for my next wrap up video, I'm combining September and October because I didn't realize until almost the end of October that I never filmed my September wrap up. So I'm going to combine them, and if I read one more book tonight, that video will be 70 books. So I'm going to try and do that. I don't know if I'm going to read a graphic novel or if I'm going to finish Things We Never Got Over. But I did it. I finished Things We Never Got Over. That makes 70 books in 2 months. What the hell? So I settled on a 4-star for this one. I picked this up when I was dealing with a lot of mental strife and I just needed to get out of my own head. And I ate this book alive. I loved it. It was exactly what I needed. I did put it down for a week and I finished the last 50 pages last night. And I didn't really care for the last 50 pages. Now, I don't know if that's just because I just didn't like the way things wrapped up, like that final conflict or whatever, or if I wasn't in that headspace anymore. So I was kind of reading this for what it really is, which is a fluffy, maybe cringy TikTok popular romance. So now I know going into the 2 sequels that I need to be in like a similar mood again. I don't think I can just pick these up at any time and enjoy them. I think I have to be in a very specific mood. So even though I didn't like the last 50 pages, I really enjoyed everything else leading up to that point, so I settled on a 4. It wasn't going to be a 5. It was never going to be a 5. It didn't give me the 5-star vibes. But I don't feel like it deserved a 3 because of how much I liked the other 500 pages. So, settled on a 4. For November, I have no plans, but that's not new. I do need to finish Ninth House. I need to finish annotating Ninth House. I don't know how that's going to go, but I really need to try and get that done. And I have a couple other books that I'd like to pick up, but I'm not putting anything in stone because as soon as I make a TBR, I avoid all the books like the plague. Morning. It's Thursday. I got distracted by life yesterday and did not give you a reading update. So here we are. So I started November off with episode 13. I found the audio, so I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm intrigued by this author because I want to read stuff for the children. But after giving this 2 stars, I'm not so sure if I still want to read stuff for the children. So this started off very boring. Very boring. Um, we're following we're following a team of paranormal investigators as they're filming a show inside of like this haunted mansion or something, and it has like a House of Leaves vibe where like they find this weird door and it leads them into like this labyrinth. Like it sounds interesting as all hell, but it is written very, very boring. And then it gets silly like the further you get into it. I will say though that if you do want to read this book, I would give the audiobook a try. They did like do something with it, like there's music playing, there's crashes and noises and weird voices. I feel like though it is a bit overacted in places, the audiobook itself, the production of it is actually pretty good. So I feel like if I was reading this book physically, I probably would have DNF'd it. I was short on audiobooks yesterday, so I was going to finish this regardless. um, it's definitely not a memorable read. Like, I read it yesterday morning, and I've already, like, forgotten a lot of things. But I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. It's not something I'll ever think about again, though there is one line that will live rent-free in my head. And it's, I don't even remember who says it. Like, I couldn't even tell you any character names anymore. Um but it's like towards the end of the book, and they're in the labyrinth place, and shit's going down, and someone says, "You shot me, bro. I'm dying over here." So I feel like the 2-star experience was worth it just to have that line play over and over in my head. So there's that. I did follow it up with a 5-star read though. Oh my god, a 5-star read on the first of the month. Who am I? I read Michelle Obama's new book, and I loved it. I adore Michelle Obama. I think she is incredibly intelligent and wise, and I love hearing about her life and all the things that she does. And it's this one is like 2 parts memoir, 1 part self-help, and especially, you know, just in the general times that we're living in the last couple of years and everything going on like personally in my life for the last like month or so. It was really nice to hear, and I almost cried a couple of times. I might put it on my wish list. That's how much I liked it, but it was very good. So good. So good. I loved it. It was a great way to spend the afternoon. I also started an ebook last night. I know, who am I? I'm very eager to get my Kindle for Christmas. So I did get an ebook and I'm reading it on my phone. It's the When Ghosts Call Us Home, I think is what it's called. It's got a really fun cover. I'm only a couple chapters in. I want to like it, but I'm not sure if I do. It's pitched as Hill House meets found footage horror movie, but I'm also getting like for some reason I'm being reminded of like the way the book Night Film is told, which is also funny because there's a quote from Night Film like at the very start of this book, so maybe that's why. But I mean, it's okay so far. It's basically about this girl whose older sister made this like crazy, like cult classic sensation film in this house that they were staying at. And apparently, like the sister that we're hearing from, she almost died during the making of it. And a couple years before the story starts, the sister who made the film disappeared. So now this girl is like determined to like dive deep into like the dark web of the fandom and figure out what happened to her sister. So now she's back at the house that the film took place in. I I think it's the writing that I'm having a hard time with. Like it feels very amateur. It feels very like fanficky. It feels very I'm in high school trying to write a novel type thing. Not saying that high schoolers can't write novels, but it's giving that kind of energy. It doesn't feel polished. It doesn't feel complete. But I don't know if it's supposed to be that way. I don't know. It's still very early. I'm like 5 chapters in. I'm like 30 pages into the ebook, and it's like 450 ebook pages. So there's still a long way to go. But I'm intrigued enough to keep swiping. So that's what's going on.
Before you ask what you think you wanna know, take a look at my face and how far you think I'll go. Cause I've had it up to here for the 37th time this year.